now let's talk about more of what's going on back home. And the migrant barge Bibby Stockholm, towed to great fanfare to Portland in Dorset, supposed to house 500 migrants, illegal migrants over on channel boats claiming asylum in this country. Just 500, that's just a day's worth, frankly. They were due to arrive on that boat yesterday. However, concerns over fire safety have meant there have been delays. They won't now be on that boat until next week at the earliest. This, as the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has said in an interview that he wants to end having asylum seekers housed in hotels. Well, where are they going to go? Using up all the private accommodation, rental accommodation in this country? Let's talk to Dr. Mike Jones, Executive Director at Migration Watch UK. Good morning to you, Mike.
Morning, Julia.
Thank you very much for joining us. First of all, let's talk about the Bibby Stockholm. I mean, the front page of The Guardian, the usual, horror and arms up and crying. Asylum seeker barge may be death trap, firefighters warn. I mean, I thought we were all living in a death trap because the world is on fire, but firefighters have accused ministers of attempting to house asylum seekers on a potential death trap after health and safety officials prompted a further delay to the use of the giant barge until next week. Look, I think we can all agree we don't want unsafe accommodation for anybody in this country. We're a civilised nation. But do you think a lot of this is being trumped up to try and stop this ever happening?
Well, I mean, the Bibby Stockholm has been in operation since the 1970s. It's housed asylum seekers in Rotterdam. It's housed homeless people in Hamburg. And it's been used to provide accommodation for construction workers off the coast of the Shetland Islands. Yeah. So there's no reason why the Bibby Stockholm cannot provide large-scale accommodation to asylum seekers. But clearly the Home Office should have anticipated this in advance, and they didn't do their due diligence. And
Home Office not doing their due diligence? I'm shocked, I tell you, Mike. I'm shocked.
Yeah, I mean, this is complicated. It's not just about repurposing and refurbishing old barges and buildings. There are various legal loopholes and protocols that you have to satisfy, and they clearly haven't done their homework.
No, exactly. As we often see the case, the human rights lawyers running rings around them. But we are in a bizarre situation where, the Prime Minister doing an interview saying he's vowing to stop housing asylum seekers in hotels. So there was a lot of fanfare about a couple of barges and some, army barracks. Again, army barracks, perfectly good for our soldiers, not good enough for asylum seekers who were living in tents in Calais a few months ago. But if they're not going to be housed on barges, if they're not going to be housed in hotels, where the heck are they going to be?
Well, the government is stuck between a rock and a hard place. They have to be housed somewhere because there are certain legal obligations towards, destitute asylum seekers. At the moment, we have 50,000 asylum seekers being housed in subsidised accommodation, and this is costing the taxpayer about $6 million every day.
Yeah.
The cost of the asylum system is around $3.6 billion, and that doubled on the previous year. So you can't let these people live a destitute life. You have to find accommodation somewhere, and the government clearly has not provided enough alternative means of housing these people. I mean, the RAF Scampton has been delayed until October, and clearly that's not good enough.
No, but the thing is, we're talking about 500 in this barge here, a couple of thousand in that army camp there. But what we are doing, that's just a week's arrivals in some weeks. Certainly over the summer months when the weather is calmer, we see that sort of number arriving, 500 a day. But the reality is they're going to have to be put into private accommodation. We're already seeing around the country private landlords being paid massively over the odds for rental accommodation. I've spoken to people who are saying they're looking at people being paid, well over the local going rate with a guaranteed payments, for more than a year, up to even 5 years. New furniture being paid for, all bills paid, everything covered, guarantees and all of that. I mean, there are millions of people in this country who work very, very hard, have done all the right things, entitled to everything here, British citizens, who would dream of such accommodation. But if that accommodation is being used up by tens of thousands of asylum seekers, it's not available to people who in this country we know legally, they're born here or here legally. That's just going to push up private rentals even more than they're already going up due to mortgage rises. That's going to push those up even more and make private accommodation, rental accommodation, even more unaffordable.
Absolutely. I mean, because of restrictive planning laws and large-scale immigration over many years, we have a housing crisis, and many young people are living in mouldy shoeboxes and paying half their salary for the pleasure of doing so.
Yeah, my team in there are all saying, yeah, nodding away at that. And that's the thing. And again, stuff that you at Migration Watch have been talking about and warning about accurately all those years. Thank you very much indeed, Mike Jones, Executive Director at Migration Watch UK. I'm Sam Armstrong. Look, this is the thing, let's add 10 million people. Let's not build pretty much any new houses, 150,000 a year. I mean, it's just not enough. And then let's have a whole load of people who the Home Office can't, they let in, they're sitting here, we can't process them, haven't got the wherewithal, can't send them anywhere, stuck with these people, and we're basically just going to have to put them in this accommodation because the human rights lawyers won't allow us to keep them anywhere else, and we can't afford to keep them in four-star hotels. This is a mess, realistically. This is a mess of the government's own making, though.